Here's a business that charges you to park, charges you $11 for a beer, charges you again to sit in a slightly better chair, and somehow the planes are the least profitable part of the whole operation. It's a machine that turns bored, thirsty, slightly panicked travelers into one of the most reliable money-printing operations on Earth. It's an airport. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why airports secretly make most of their money from cinnamon buns and parking spaces, why the airlines are basically freeloading tenants, and what it would actually cost you to own one. Let's break down the economics of owning an airport. So, you want to own an airport. First, a warning, this is not a hobby you pick up on a Saturday. The scale of money here is genuinely absurd. But there's good news. Airports come in wildly different sizes, and one of them might just be affordable if your definition of affordable includes the word million. At the bottom, there's the humble private airstrip. This is basically a long strip of flat grass. Buy a few acres of cheap rural land, rent a tractor for about $300 a day, flatten it, plant some grass, and congratulations, you technically own an airport. Total cost, potentially under $100,000. The catch, of course, is that the only thing landing there is a tiny propeller plane flown by a man who calls it my baby. One step up is a small private airport for charter flights. Now you need real land, real runways, and a real terminal, even if that terminal is the size of a gas station. You're looking at $10 million and up. And then, at the very top, there's the big one, the commercial airport. And here, the numbers stop making any human sense. A commercial airport needs a minimum of around 3,000 acres. A single runway, just the strip of concrete, can cost between $100 and $500 million. And you'll probably need more than one. The terminal, the glass palace where you'll eventually sell those $11 beers, can run from $500 million to over $5 billion on its own. To put it in perspective, the current renovation of Los Angeles International Airport is a $30 billion project. $30 billion. You could buy a small country. Instead, you're buying a very expensive building where people cry at the gate. So, the price of entry is monstrous. Which brings us to the only question that matters. How on earth does a machine this expensive make its money back? And the answer is going to completely change how you see every airport you ever walk through again. Most people assume an airport makes its money from planes. From the airlines, that seems obvious, right? It's an airport. It's full of planes. But this is the great illusion at the heart of the entire business, because the airlines are, frankly, cheapskates. Here's what the airlines actually pay. There's the landing fee, which is calculated based on the weight of the aircraft. At a big hub, this is typically just $2 to $8 per 1,000 pounds of airplane. A massive passenger jet lands, disgorges hundreds of people, and the airport collects a fee that, in the grand scheme of things, is almost polite. Airlines also pay to rent terminal space and gates, but airlines are ruthless negotiators. They fly thin margins, they threaten to leave for other airports, and they squeeze every fee down to the bone. So all of this money the airport collects directly from aviation, it's called aeronautical revenue. And for many airports, it's not even the main event. Because here's the secret. The real money, the fortune, comes from you, the passenger. The moment you step out of that plane, you stop being a traveler and you become a customer trapped in a shopping mall you cannot leave. This is called non-aeronautical revenue. And for many U.S. airports, it makes up around 40% of everything they earn, sometimes much more. Let's start with the greatest business in the entire airport. Parking. It sounds boring. It is not boring. Parking and ground transportation can account for over 40% of an airport's non-airline income. Major hubs can pull in over $200 million a year from parking alone. $200 million from the simple act of letting a car sit still on some concrete. It is arguably the most profitable real estate on the planet per square foot. Then come the concessions, the shops, the restaurants, the duty-free. Here's the beautiful, cruel genius of it. Once you're through security, you are a captive audience. You can't leave. You're often early, you're bored, and you're mildly anxious. This is the perfect psychological state to pay $9 for a bottle of water. Top airports make over $15 in retail sales for every single passenger who walks through. Multiply that by tens of millions of passengers a year, and the cinnamon bun stand suddenly looks like an oil well. Dallas-Fort Worth Airport alone generates over $1 billion a year just from commercial development. Its shops, its restaurants, its real estate. And that's the final piece. The land. An airport sits on thousands of acres, and the smart ones lease that land out for hotels, cargo warehouses, and office parks, collecting steady rent for decades. Miami's airport handles over 2.7 million tons of cargo a year, creating high-margin income from simply moving boxes of pharmaceuticals and flowers. So step back and look at the machine. The planes are just the bait. The airlines are just the delivery service, dropping off millions of bored, wealthy, trapped customers directly into your shopping mall. You're not really running an airport. You're running the world's best located shopping center, and the planes deliver the shoppers for free. So it prints money, but this business can still absolutely destroy you, and it does it in a few spectacular ways. The first killer is the passenger. Your entire empire, the parking, the shops, the beer, all of it depends on human beings physically walking through your building. And humans are fragile. A pandemic hits, and overnight your billion-dollar shopping mall becomes an empty, echoing cathedral. In 2020, airports watched 90+% of their customers simply vanish, while the bills for that $30 billion terminal kept arriving right on schedule. The second killer is debt. Nobody has $30 billion in cash. Airports are built on mountains of bonds, borrowed money that has to be paid back with interest for decades. In fact, U.S. airports have paid around 78% of all the passenger fees they collect straight towards servicing their debt. You're not just building an airport, you're signing up for a 30-year loan the size of a national budget and praying people keep flying. And the third killer is that you're at the mercy of the airlines. If a major airline decides your airport is too expensive and pulls its flights, they don't just take the planes, they take the passengers. And the passengers were the only thing that made your parking lots and cinnamon buns worth anything. Lose the airline, lose the crowd, lose the empire. So let's answer the real question. If you did this, how much would you actually make? Own a tiny private airstrip and realistically you make almost nothing. It's a rich person's toy, a place to park a plane. But own a real commercial airport, and the numbers become staggering. Airport-generated revenue across U.S. airports runs around $7.7 billion a year, with the largest airports capturing over 90% of it. A single major hub can generate hundreds of millions in profit annually once the debt is under control. A near-guaranteed river of cash flowing from parking meters and pretzel stands, decade after decade. So if you still want to own an airport, just remember the one rule the whole business runs on. You think you're buying a place for planes. You're not. You're buying the one shopping mall on Earth where the customers are legally required to arrive 2 hours early and physically forbidden from leaving. The planes were never the point, you were.